Big whale investors and institutional analysts are now all of a sudden not just bullish on Tesla stock, but now uber bulls, it seems. First, Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas dropped a second note on top of the one he did just a couple days ago, sharing his excitement over Tesla. This time he says he just bought a brand new 2026 Model Y to replace his 2021 Model Y. After a flawless 1,400-mile, 12-hour round trip using Tesla's full self-driving, even with his old Hardware 3 car, he felt he now needed the Hardware 4 version. Second, Sandhill's Brenda Vingiello calls Elon Musk $1 billion Tesla stock by a big vote of confidence. We'll watch her interview where she also talked about Tesla's new battery tech, XAI, and next-gen chips. Third, William Blair analyst Jed Dorsheimer says that with Musk's Tesla stock purchase combined with the upward momentum on vehicle deliveries and robotaxi rollout, they're becoming more bullish. He says they met with Tesla's board of directors recently and discussed the new CEO performance package. We got Hans Nelson joining us today. He's a host of his own YouTube channel called Hans C. Nelson. Check him out there. He's the expert in AI, autonomy, and robots. Thank you so much, Hans. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
So more and more of these institutional analysts, they're now very, very bullish. They've turned the tide. They're talking not only, vehicles that used to be, they're talking energy, but now they're talking autonomy and they're talking robots. Morgan Stanley, he dropped a note just 2 days ago. I've reported on it already. He actually drove the car 1,200 miles or 1,400 miles. And he was just blown away that it was so perfect. And of course, you and I have been driving our cars. We already know this, but finally we've got somebody who's validating this works. So if Morgan Stanley says that, right, doesn't it something that others will jump onto as well? But in this new note, he talks about, he actually says that he I don't even know why he had to do a post on this one, but basically he's saying that he bought a brand new 2026 Model Y because the one that he did with that road trip was a 2021 Model Y, which had the old model Hardware 3, but it also had the old FSD. I guess the one that's used. And I'm telling people right now that if you have the Hardware 4, it is that much better. So he really thought that was important. And then he said the biggest upgrade for the car is hands down having Grok in the car with a long press of the microphone button on the wheel. So even that he thinks is incredibly important. And then, of course, the ending of the expiry of the $7,500 federal EV tax credit. And then he was able to move the FSC subscription. That's what compelled him. He used the app, Tesla app. And if people know, you can use the app, and it took about 7 minutes for him to basically complete the purchase. He walked in and that's how easy the process is. So this is finally, one of the institutional analysts tested it out, bought a car, experienced Grok, and understands how incredible Tesla is. Thoughts on all that?
It's good to see, Adam Jonas coming around. He's been a little bit slow, but he's getting there. And he does have good analysis when he finally gets to it. I think was it just Q1 of this year where he still was asking questions on the earnings call about LiDAR.
Yes.
So, he's getting there, but I didn't hear any comments about LiDAR in his post. So, he doesn't seem to be sad that it's missing now. And I haven't heard anything from him on that since that last earnings call that I did hear him talk about that. So he's getting on board, going in the right direction, finally coming to understand the things that you've had lots of guests who have talked about these same points, long before Adam ever did. And so that said, we're not going to begrudge him for understanding things correctly, even if it is a little bit later than we would have liked. And he's correct. The model, the new Model Y is a fantastic car. Grok is fantastic. The updated versions of FSD V13 on Hardware 4 are exceptional. Hardware 3 and 12.6.4 or whatever it is that is the latest there now is very good. It is definitely a step above when you get to experience Hardware 4 and version 13. We're going to be getting version 14 here, supposedly in the next few months. That's going to be really exciting. I'm sure he'll have, things to say about that when he receives that. And, hopefully at the same time, then the people who are on hardware 3 will actually get an update to their cars that puts them on par with what we have been seeing in hardware 4 with version 13. And I do think that's pretty likely as well. So all that to be said, getting this message now spoken by someone that Wall Street is going to take more seriously is a big step. Retail alone is never going to move the stock to the levels that it needs to get to and will get to. It does take more consensus around that. And so watching these institutional analysts kind of begin to get the story is a good early signal of where things are going in the not too distant future.
Hans, can you speak a little bit to hardware 3 and it's how improved? Because, he's had the 2021 Model Y. He had an FSD subscription. So he's been testing this. But what I don't know if people understand that over the course of every month, really, I'm getting both my cars, hardware 3 and hardware 4 car, get these software updates. They're like 55-minute long updates. And it says there, minor improvements. But clearly, after it's been up, the car's FSD is improved significantly, or I feel it. So it's been getting better and better and better over these months. And so even though he's had it for 2021, he did his big long road trip just last week, and he said it was flawless. But it's not like he, like it's a new car, even though it's a 2021 because FSD is improving. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things that make it feel like a much better car inside. I have a 2024 Highland Model 3 now, and I was driving a 2018 dual motor Model 3 before that. And so just the build quality difference, moving to these new and improved, the Highland and the Juniper models, that's a big deal. And even if it drives the same way, it feels like a much better driving experience inside those vehicles. So that's thing number one. But thing number two is, they are pushing the boundaries right now with what FSD is capable of. And they are using these larger neural nets. They are using things that are computationally more expensive right now to give us the bleeding edge of performance on hardware 4. They've, really finally started taking advantage of some of the things that hardware 4 is capable of that hardware 3 is not. And so that's why hardware 4 is leading what hardware 3 can do. But that doesn't mean that hardware 3 cannot still continue to be improved. But it is just an elevated experience that, especially, the more time you spend on the car, the number of times that you need to intervene in hardware 4 is significantly reduced compared to hardware 3. Hardware 3 is really good. Hardware 4 is better. Neither of them are perfect yet. And I think they're going to continue to advance towards that level of quasi-perfection together for, each time we get one of these major improvements. I think version 14 is going to be something special. That we, like you said, we've been getting these minor updates, and yes, they are updates, but they're not changes to architecture. They're small tweaks. And I think that what's coming with version 14 is going to be a big step forward, and Elon said this explicitly, and I expect him to be correct on this, that it was a huge shift from version 11 to version 12. And I think this shift from version 13 to version 14 is going to be almost as big of a improvement as we saw from 11 to 12. Now, at first, it's going to, be rough around the edges, and it's going to need to improve, but it's going to have that magic quality to it when we first get it. That's going to show, okay, this is they need to kind of nip and tuck here and there, but this is going to be incredible. And I think that same magic is going to be something that hardware 3 owners also get to experience. They'll get, it may not be the same week, the same day as hardware 4 people get to experience it, but they won't be too far behind, and they'll get an update as well that their car will feel that magic improvement.
I guarantee you, Adam's going to have 2 more posts. Next week, he'll post, hey, this is the new hardware 4 car. And let me tell you how different this is, because it is night and day. It's better than hardware 3, because I have both, and I can tell the difference. And then he'll say, FSC version 14 will drop sometime next month. Hopefully he'll experience it. Then he'll never have posts about that. So this is great to see him do that, because I agree with you that Adam Jonas, Morgan Stanley, seems to be well respected amongst many of the others. And what he says carries a bit of weight. So let's
I just can't wait for him to post LiDAR is dead.
By the way, in his 1,400-mile road trip that he just took, he said it went through 2 major rainstorms. And so he said, yeah, it worked perfectly fine through that. So hopefully enough of this, can't go out, drive in rain, need LiDAR. Yeah, maybe he'll say that one day. Here's another person. I don't really know her very well. This is the first time. Sandhill, Brenda Vingiello. She talks about Elon's $1 billion stock buy, a big vote of confidence. I think this is another theme that we're hearing from all these institutional analysts. Is this buy by Tesla? Yes, by Elon. Yes, we all know that it was there to help him with the vote, but it's still a big vote of confidence on top of the shareholder performance package. But she also talks about the new battery tech, the next gen chips, XAI ties. So let's listen to what she said here.
Brenda, this is a scenario where a lot of folks have been looking for some kind of catalyst for Tesla to resume a sustained trend higher. Is this the one?
I think it's one of many catalysts that are out there, but I think it's definitely a great vote of confidence. There were so many questions about whether Elon was really focused on Tesla for a period of time and whether the work that he was doing with the government was really damaging to the brand. And of course, that came in the backdrop of a tough moment for EV sales. But I think if we look at some of the announcements, this is a company that isn't standing still. They're still innovating. Just last week, talked about a new utility scale battery configuration that should make it faster and more cost effective for that to be implemented at the utility side. Elon also talked about the next generation chip for cars that will be 40 times better than the current chips being used. And then lastly, we also have learned it's going to be up for vote at the upcoming board meeting later this year about whether or not Tesla should invest cash into XAI. And from my seat, I certainly see a lot of people clamoring for exposure to private companies, especially the larger private companies out there. So I do think that is going to be of interest for a lot of shareholders to be able to gain exposure to that part of Elon's companies as well.
Brenda, are you, as a shareholder, concerned that Elon Musk is not as focused on Tesla as he should be, given all of those other private market obligations and everything else in his kind of ecosystem? Are you worried, or as a shareholder, do you feel like this is a way to really keep him engaged in Tesla?
I'm going to pause it there for a second. It sounds like he's moving into a second topic. What's your thoughts on everything she said so far?
Yeah, I mean, so just to recap, we got it's a huge vote of confidence. They talked about the, contribution of Megablock as a energy project. I think she said that they're excited about the chips that Elon is working on and their ability to be significantly better than the chips today, whatever the number was, 40 times, I think. XAI, I would agree. She sounds like a retail analyst. This is this is the exact types of things that we've been saying. Energy is going to be a huge driver for the core underlying business of Tesla and its ability to contribute to this vision that Elon has for Master Plan Part 4 of sustainable abundance. We love seeing him own more of the stock. We love seeing him invest his own money into buying Tesla at this point in time. So, it is a vote of confidence, and it does increase the likelihood that his pay package will go through. An increased likelihood of his pay package goes through means a better alignment between Tesla shareholders and Tesla management. All of that's positive. I would agree with every single one of her points here. I think one of the ones that might slide by a lot of people that really, really, really is important is Elon and Tesla's focus on developing their in-house silicon for AI development, both in the data center and at the edge. And that's, the reason that AI 6 is going to be this convergence architecture where they're going to have very similar chips in the cars and in the Optimus robots that are also running in the data centers. That's going to have massive tailwinds for it. And of course, they're going to try and do that as energy efficiently as possible. And that's going to be huge. That also allows you to do, in a previous show, we talked about, how you are going to want to just create this world simulation that you're then going to let these AI agents operate with inside so that they can learn how to have superhuman performance in a whole number of instances. And an AI6 inference chip will be the thing that simulates each one of those agents. And it can do that on the car, but it could also do that in a data center. And so that's, as these two things grow together, that's going to be incredibly important part of just how AI is trained. And so the vision that Elon has for how AI will be built in the future is spot on. It's very aligned with the types of things that are just going to produce incredible results. And they want to do important things themselves and actually have the capability in-house, regardless of whether or not Jensen is able to deliver on that for him, which I think Jensen would be able to, but they want to be able to do it themselves as well, so that they have the insurance policy, the in-house knowledge, and the in-house independence to be able to do that. So incredibly important. And then XAI is going to be one of the most important companies in the world. We, as Tesla shareholders, definitely want exposure to that. We want Tesla and XAI to be linked together like this, and we want to enjoy the synergies that produces. So
it looks like she's in favor of that statement as well, that Tesla should invest in XAI. So back to her comment that his $1 billion Tesla stock buy is a big vote of confidence. I think I see it as two reasons why. So one is, yes, it's him investing in the company, but we know that it's primarily for, because he did it on Friday, it's because he wanted to increase his voting shares. And then, so that's the second bit, is that the likelihood that this performance award is going to succeed is much higher. We still need every single retail shareholder to vote. Please come out in force. Sometime in this week, the definitive proxy will drop, and then that's when voting will open, and we should all go in and get a control number from each of our accounts. Every single one of our accounts where Tesla stock is held, that broker will send you a control number, and you can vote. But apparently, Alexander Mertz confirmed that Elon can actually vote on all matters, including the performance award. So when he now has 15% of ownership, the 1 billion just adds a little bit more to that. It gets him to be able to really push this. So I think that his investment shows you significantly that I'm here. I like the performance award, and I'm going to make it happen. And now I'm going to hopefully have enough votes. But it looks like that the vote of confidence is there. Yeah.
Yeah. 8.5 trillion. Here we come.
Yeah. 2 trillion is the first tranche. So he needs to double the company. And boy, we're already at 1.3 or something like that. He's already moved it just in the last week. Let's listen into the rest of her conversation here.
I think this has been a question for a long time, right? I think back to even the days when he was buying Twitter or trying not to buy Twitter. And that also was a very distracting period where shareholders really questioned his focus on the company. But it was even at that time that he had an analyst event and really showcased the breadth of other layers of management at Tesla. So I do think that he has the title of CEO, but maybe his role at the company is not really what we normally think of as a traditional CEO. So I do think he has hired good people to be in place to manage the business. I think he's certainly personally excited about a lot of the innovation happening there. But sure, as a shareholder, would we like to see him a little bit more focused on the company? Absolutely. I do think this announcement of his purchase of another $1 billion or so of stock is a great effort to show that he still cares, although relatively speaking, it's a small piece of his overall share of the company. But nevertheless, I also think it helps temper some of the concerns about his pay package, which is also a bit controversial. And will be voted on at the upcoming board meeting.
So the show that you and I just did the day before, yesterday, Elon himself made a post saying, I'm busy starting Friday all the way through the weekend. And 4 out of the 5 of those are all about Tesla. And only one of them was Colossus 2, which is XAI, which is going to be helpful for Tesla. So yeah, comments on her last analysis there.
Yeah, I mean, Elon always has been and always will be focused on the things that he views as being the most important and existential for humanity. That was his motivation for starting Tesla. That was his motivation for starting SpaceX. That was his motivation for getting involved in OpenAI. That was his motivation for getting involved in Doge with the government and finding that he felt like, that time was maybe dubiously spent. But all of that said, the takeaway from our show yesterday was that Elon Musk is all in on artificial intelligence right now, and Tesla plays a huge role in that. And his focus on Tesla is more than sufficient to continue to drive Tesla forward in its execution relative to AI. And then as AI just takes over more and more of the market, like people just have no idea what the TAM is that AI is about to unlock, that is latent TAM that doesn't even exist in today's economy and will drive just untold amounts of returns and performance. It will be incredibly disruptive as well. And Tesla's going to be one of the companies leading the charge. There's going to be a handful of, important investments in that space, but Tesla's going to be right up there among the top ones. And Elon is, his focus at Tesla is going to be more than sufficient to drive that as it is. And then when you combine that with the synergies that he gets from also devoting time to XAI and Colossus and Macro Hard and these projects that they're doing, it's going to be a radical world 5 to 10 years from now that it's very difficult for us to wrap our minds around today. And those two companies are going to be front and center.
Yeah, it helps Tesla investors. So he is wartime CEO right now. Let's listen to William Blair. The analyst is Jed Dorsheimer. I just think that what he says in his new note is typical of, I think, how investors are now seeing Tesla, which is fantastic, by the way. And especially a big point he made about they actually met with Tesla's board of directors. So it sounds like the board of directors is going around meeting with the big analyst and big whale investors out there. So what he said was, with Musk's purchase, the Tesla stock, right, combined with the upward momentum for delivery expectations, so cars, and the robotaxi rollout, we're becoming more bullish. This purchase is Musk's first buy since 2020. To us, this sends a strong signal of confidence in the most important part of Tesla's future business, robotaxi. We recently participated in a meeting with Tesla's board of directors to discuss the details of Musk's performance package. The board is confident of its position in the Delaware case and anticipates a verdict by end of year. It does not expect a similar situation occur under new Texas jurisdiction. I think that's one of the key messages that Tesla board members need to tell these analysts is that, because they moved to Texas as the corporate headquarters for Tesla, their corporate law is different than Delaware. And they won't need to, they don't expect to have the same kind of, advocate judge come in and disrupt things. Musk has the board's full support, and we expect he'll get more than enough shareholder support for this to pass with flying colors. So this is they're going around talking to everybody, and they're very confident of everything. And so far, I've not heard of a single, again, I'm not reading everything, but I haven't heard of any major analyst or big whale investor saying that they do not like the performance package or a direction that this comes. It seems like everything is heading in the right direction. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a private investor accredited or have access to a lot of the stuff that goes on at some of these levels, but I would expect that before the board publishes a pay package like that they actually had to go around and do a roadshow of sorts with a lot of big institutions in order to make sure that they were on board. Because you can't bring a vote like this to the shareholders without at least having a high level of confidence that it's going to pass. And so it doesn't surprise me that these types of conversations needed to have been had, will have been had, and that people are on board. And that's the thing, how can you argue with, well, yeah, if, Elon takes this company from $1 trillion valuation to $8.5 trillion in valuation, I wouldn't be too opposed to rewarding him handsomely for that. And, it's just like the power of aligned incentives for a long-term vision and a long-term future that's very clear that everyone can rally around and see and understand is a powerful thing. And I think that's what this CEO compensation package represents. And I know that it's unconventional. And that's why so many of us are invested in Teslas, because we think it's unconventional and correct, and we like it and we want more of it.
It's funny, isn't it? You and I have done many, many shows in the last 2 years. And one of the themes, of course, is updating the shareholders about what do institutional analysts think. And almost all those shows in the past were like, how can this guy not get the story? They have not even tried FSD. They don't even know the TAM. Don't they realize this or that or this? And they're focused on the wrong things. Isn't it a little bit, hey, look at this.
We're finally getting through to the dense people, in their high rises who are so far away from the technology and the people in the story.
They all need to test FSD. We need to hear William Blair, Jed Dorsheimer say, I tested FSD. We need to hear that. And that's the story right there. Take a robo-taxi ride. Get down there. There's the opportunities out there. Thank you so much, Hans. Your contribution to this show, to the audience, is so incredible. Your knowledge is fantastic, and you always give good viewpoints. Follow Hans. Go check him out. Check out some of his videos. Go to his YouTube channel, Hans C. Nelson. Thanks, everybody. Bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.